Reporting tonight, Sophie Louie.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with accusations of a cover-up in Ottawa, with new details emerging in the We Charity controversy just as Parliament is proroguing. Late yesterday, the government finally released thousands of pages of internal records linked to the now cancelled We agreement. But with Parliament now prorogued until late September, the committees investigating the proposed contract can't formally review them as they've been shut down. Conservatives say it's clear the Prime Minister has something to hide.
This page, blacked out. This page, blacked out. This page, blacked out. Why don't we ask what's in those pages at a parliamentary committee? Well, I'll tell you why. Justin Trudeau shut down those parliamentary committees. When did he do it? The same day these documents became public. What a coincidence.
Well, some of the documents are redacted, but there are still some key new revelations about how the We deal came together. Global's Abigail Bimman has more on what we've learned and the questions that are still unanswered.
At the center of this controversy, a big question: how close was We to the government? And why didn't they register to lobby until the very day executives testified at committee? In a May 7th email, a finance official writes, We is connecting with Minnow, that's the minister's office. They are all besties. While the enormous document trove backs up the government's assertion that the public service recommended We,
the professional, nonpartisan public service, made a recommendation, I accepted it.
They suggest the minister responsible, Bardish Chagger, helped shepherd the process. According to emails, Chagger met with We on April 17th. 2 days later, an Employment and Social Development Canada official sent an urgent email to We co-founder Craig Kielburger asking for a quick conversation on a potential initiative. And on April 22nd, Kielburger wrote Chagger, We appreciate your thoughtful offer to connect us with relevant members of your ministry. Over the weekend, our team has also been hard at work to adapt your suggestion of a second stream focused on a summer service opportunity. Chagger pushed back, telling Global News she didn't direct We to change or add to any proposal. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister said repeatedly he pressed pause on the We deal on May 8th because he wanted more due diligence done.
Let's put the brakes on, let's check, let's go do extra verifications.
But on that very day, a note from a bureaucrat suggests a different reason. Rachel Wernick wrote, The item just got bumped to next week. Ran out of time. Delays launch. Trudeau's office tells us they stand by his testimony. And there have been a lot of questions about where that $900 million number for the student grant program came from. 3 weeks after it was announced, a finance official wrote, There is no breakdown. It was unbelievably preliminary, with actually no model of how it would be administered, while the assistant deputy minister referred to the loosey-goosey logic used to come up with it. The lobbying commissioner tells us they've launched a preliminary assessment, but won't comment as to whether an investigation is underway, while the RCMP stepped up their language in a new statement, telling Global News they're examining this matter carefully and will take appropriate actions as required. Abigail Bimman, Global News, Ottawa.
All right, let's bring in our Ottawa Bureau Chief, Mercedes Stephenson. Mercedes, let's talk about that RCMP statement. What do you make of it?
Well, Sophie, that's the question. What does it mean? And for our viewers, I wanted to share exactly what it is that we asked the RCMP. We asked if they could confirm whether they're investigating the Liberal government's decision to award a contract to the We Charity Foundation and to administer that $900 million federal student grant program. Their response is carefully worded but stronger than before. They say the RCMP is examining this matter carefully with all available information and will take appropriate actions as required. It would be inappropriate for us to provide any more further comments on this matter at this time. Now, Sophie, that does not mean that they have launched a criminal investigation, but it does mean that they're taking a look to decide if this is something they should move forward with. And that obviously is a development, especially after the RCMP were asked to investigate by the Conservatives. Of course, the police don't respond to any political party. They make their own decisions.
All right, you've been poring over these documents as well, Mercedes. What other questions do they raise?
Well, questions that we really won't get an answer to with the proroguing of Parliament, because the committees have been suspended that were looking at these documents. Questions about ministerial involvement, like you just heard about in Abigail's story. Questions about whether ministers were honest at committees, whether any of the lobbying that was happening was potentially illegal, and of course questions about Bill Morneau, who's now departed. All of this has been shot down, which stops the momentum and takes the pressure off the government. That's been a tried and true formula for former prime ministers in trouble who have also used prorogation as a technique to take the heat off, including Prime Minister Harper and Prime Minister Chrétien. What's unique about this is that we're not talking about proroguing during a majority, but rather a minority and during a pandemic. That said, it's not for very long, and the government promises a confidence vote.
So is there a risk, Mercedes, of bringing down the government and perhaps triggering an election?
There's always a risk, but frankly, the risk to the Liberals at this point is low, as long as they can keep one of the opposition parties on board because of the way the breakdown is in the House of Commons. The most likely to stay on board is Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, and a lot of the language that was used yesterday by the government signals they're looking at significant spending. I asked Mr. Singh today about whether or not what is revealed in these wee documents that now can't be examined at committee until the fall has changed his mind on whether or not he'll support the government. This is what he had to say.
We look at the question of confidence or not. Our focus is on what do people need right now. And what I'm hearing from people, from families, they want to know that their kids can go back to school safely. They want access to childcare. They want to know that they're going to be able to rely on something like CERB or EI that's expanded. Those are the pressing things, and I want to focus on that.
Doesn't sound like a party leader looking to bring down the government, but of course it'll depend on what they can negotiate with the Liberals. Sophie?
All right, Mercedes Stephenson in Ottawa. Thank you, Mercedes.